All right. Welcome to the situation. This is gonna be short. This is gonna be like super, super short. Just because I'm kind of just getting back into town and I'm just kind of seeing what's going on and whatnot. Big ups to Proper. Actually, let me switch this real fast. Because I'm looking to get on a stream with Proper soon. So hopefully you guys are all doing well and whatnot. And let me just run by some stuff that I've heard and read over the last couple hours, and then we'll get started. Where do we start? Where do we start? What's up to everybody in the chat, man? Like I said, big ups to Proper. Big ups to Proper. Big ups to Sunspot Gallery, as always. And big ups to Jackal's Lair, who was actually on Pigsplaining. I don't know, the video came out today, so that's when I got a chance to actually listen to it. So big ups to them, big ups to everybody. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. I am out of the loop to an extent, but I'll give you guys what I know so far, and then we'll have a brief conversation about it. And I hope to have at least 2 streams by the time the weekend comes up, and I can kind of run some of the stuff to you. Because I was supposed to be out of town for like 3 days, and it turned into like a week, and I had a great time, so it was what it was. Okay. So, where do we start? So, DSP essentially ran his mouth off about the podcast yet again. Keemstar puts basically the ultimatum that he has 48 hours to to apologize basically to the podcast, and if not, there was going to be some unsaid repercussions. The next day, DSP makes a video about it. DSP gets the ultimatum. He makes another video about it. And then he essentially gives an apology to Wings and Boogie and basically tells Keem, hey, if both of these useless idiots need the money, just pay them. You don't need, the show shouldn't be completely hinged on me being part of the show. Even though DSP admitted that Keem came to him and asked him to be the host. So you kind of understand why the show is somewhat based on you, because you said Keem came to you and asked for you to be the host. So you're essentially the herder for this Lol Cow podcast, even though you're a Lol Cow yourself. And I don't necessarily believe the whole thing about him asking him to be the host, but whatever. Maybe he wants him to read off the topics, but that doesn't necessarily make you a host. On top of that, Keem Keem put out the ultimatum that he wanted an apology. Then Keem followed that up with saying he finally has somebody from DSP's either family or someone in his friend circle or someone who previously knew him or knows of him, and now they're willing to talk. And big ups to Paul, who reached out to me earlier and said that they believe it's someone that DSP worked at the helicopter company with, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter who it was. But Keem allegedly has someone on the line to talk about DSP. Okay. How do we go about this? One, first and foremost, I told y'all, Keem is relentless when it comes to this shit. And it's a war of attrition. Keem will burn DSP's candle to the wick to get what he wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, he'll humiliate him. So either way, Keemstar wins. So I want to put that out there right now. If Keem doesn't get the show, if this podcasting doesn't get off the ground, it doesn't matter to Keem, because he'll just humiliate DSP even further. So it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter who Keem talks to, whether there's someone who knows DSP in a more intimate fashion, or someone he went to school with, or someone he works with. It doesn't matter. If it's somebody who was not previously known to the internet, who has something to say about DSP, Keem is going to run with it, and he's going to win. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he picks. For DSP himself, he's already lost. First off, DSP, why did you even respond? How can Keem hurt you any more than you've already hurt yourself? You're nobody on YouTube. You don't have a presence on Twitch. It doesn't matter what other streaming platform it goes to, Kick, Facebook, wherever. He doesn't have a presence over there, and he probably won't be able to really drum one up unless there are people there to mock him. And you're nobody on Twitter. You never really were. So all of the places that Keem has that he can essentially burn DSP out, DSP doesn't have a voice. So why did DSP even respond to him? DSP should have just ignored it and kept it pushing and see what happens after the 48 hours, which is probably nothing. On top of that, I saw a little bit of the stream today, and DSP definitely is bitch made, and he definitely looks scared. But who cares? Like, who gives a shit? If you're DSP, who do you shouldn't even care at this point. You looking nervous or you looking scared or whatever the case may be only reinforces what Keem is about to do to you. So you're a fucking moron. You're literally feeding Keem everything that he wanted. Matter of fact, when DSP responded to the 48-hour ultimatum, Keem already had him trapped because DSP is a reactionary person. And we all know that as detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. But now Keem has a better understanding of who you are as a person. So he knows how to abuse you. He knows how to take advantage of you. He knows how to make you dance, to quote El Presidor. You're nothing. You've become... I mean, DSP is already predictable, right? He's extremely predictable. But now Keem knows what your triggers are. Now Keem can go beyond detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, and now he can pry into your real life. And why is that, chat? Because Keem has time and he has resources. And we're in a shitty economy right now. So if Keem is able to track down a handful of people and he's like, hey, I'll give you $1,000 to sit down with me for like 2 hours to reminisce about some asshole that you haven't seen in 20 years. Sure. They'll give up whatever they remember about him in an hour and a half interview. What is there to lose? That's resources. Let's talk about time. DSP doesn't have a lot of time. He physically looks like shit. YouTube is dead. He has to figure out, is he going to go back to Twitch and try to make that work? Or is he going to try to make the ultimate jump and go to Kick? He's running out of options and he's running out of time. Because the donations are not exactly where they need to be either. And even if he's doing okay month to month, I would assume what his yearly income has dropped. On top of, speaking of which, I was going to wait until I got a chance to speak to Proper and maybe even go on one of his streams and talk about it, but I'll do it right now. That whole nonsense that happened like a week ago, where everybody thought it was a health scare or whatever it wasn't any of that. I had thought about what it was like 5 days ago and whatever. What I think it is chargebacks. When DSP, because the moment DSP came back from, what was that? He took that Tuesday off, right? And then he was off already on Wednesday, so he showed back up that Thursday, I think. Either way, when he came back, he immediately went into this tip inquisition nonsense. The moment DSP did that, that told me everything I needed to know. There is no health issue. I mean, there is, but there isn't. I said that before. It's tips. It's chargebacks. I think that's what he's getting hit with. I think he's been getting hit with it for a while. Because DSP doesn't turn bitch like that unless it's money. Money is what hurts DSP or people taking his money. And since we all know how he spends his money, i.e. the moment that money comes in, that money ends up going out, I think he got charged back money that he got charged back on money that he already spent on WWE champions. So he got fucked himself into a quandary. A quagmire, if you will. I think that's what ended up happening to him. That's just my opinion, of course. That's just my thought process. But I think it was chargebacks is what got him all fucked up, and he chose to take the day off. An additional day off, I should say. So, there you go on that. I think it was, and that what led to this tip inquisition that you keep seeing now. Back to Keem. Like I said, Keem's gonna burn him from both ends of the wick. And he'll get away with it. Because DSP, you can't vilify Keemstar. He's already got that base covered. With that being said, no pun intended. Keem is gonna come out looking like the fucking man. Hey, I offered you 50 grand and a quarter stake in this fledgling podcast that could work out. And going into the situation we're going in, where more people are going to be looking at participating or listening to more podcasts and trying to kind of save up their money and whatever the case may be. They're going to be more conservative with their spending, I should say. A podcast for DSP works out. If DSP is so concerned about being looked at as a lolcow and looking at his peers and contemporaries as being lolcows, instead of walking into this podcast as an opportunity. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say it's myself, Agent Proper, and I don't know, pick up a popular detractor that you guys like. Let's say Piece of Peace. Okay. Now, I'm the weakest link out of those three. I'll tell you that now. I'm the weakest link of those three. Instead of me going in there self-conscious, I should be going into that podcast and doing my best, having my best showing. I don't need to try to outshine those two guys. I just need to be the best that I can be. Doing that changes the perspective of how people look at you. You know what I'm saying? That's what DSP should be trying to do. He don't want that because that requires him to do something. You know what I mean? And instead of trying to change the perspective of the show and being like, oh, well, you know what? Wings actually does have something to say that's occasionally on the mark. Or, you know what? Boogie's not just a fucking fence sitter. He occasionally does have a ground that he's willing to stand on. DSP doesn't want to do any of that. He doesn't want to do anything to change the perspective. He just wants people to take him at his word and to move off of it. He doesn't want to try to change people's opinion. He doesn't want to try to show people he's more than just a laughingstock. He would rather play victim. Or he's not playing victim, he is a victim, but you know what I mean. He would rather continue to just be the victim, and he's not going to get nowhere with that because no one respects that. You know what I mean? And that's why he's at where he's at now. And that's the reason why I think, honestly, he's trying to convince Keem, because I do think he's in talks with Keem. I think he's trying to convince Keem, or he was trying to convince Keem to change the name of that podcast. I think he wanted that narrative to be changed from Jump Street. But that's one of the selling points of it. Secondly, as this whole thing about him trying to steal Keem's idea, first off, it wasn't going to work anyway because there was no financial backing behind it. 2, DSP already stole the level 1 nonsense from Keem. So why wouldn't he steal that concept? 3, what makes any of you think that Boogie or Wings were going to sign on to that shit with DSP anyway when there's no money behind it? Think for a second. For a second. There is no money, there's no sponsorship, and there's no exposure from just doing some fucking rinky-dink, run-of-the-mill fucking podcast with DSP, and that's it. And Boogie and Wings know it. So let me address this real fast. The narrative of, oh, we were going to do our own thing, and Boogie and Wings had a third party who was going to fund it. That third party was Keem. The only reason why they wanted to wait until after the fight is so Boogie and Wings could come back to DSP and say, we got this money. So there is no other options but doing it through Keem. Because DSP is someone who needs to see something in hand before he's willing to move on anything. So Keem was always going to end up backing the podcast. And if DSP believed that there was a third person who was going to fund it, who? Please, someone in the chat or someone in the comment section, tell me who. Was it going to be June the King? No. He don't even want to touch doing a DSP podcast. He doesn't even want to touch doing a DSP documentary right now. He's already wary of that. And then he's still reeling off the nonsense with Low Tier God. So that's not June. You know what I'm saying? Frederick Knudsen or Down the Rabbit Hole is not going to do that. Charlie's not going to put no money behind that shit. Moist Critical. So who else was going to throw money in besides Keem to fund this 3-man podcast? Someone, please tell me that. Please, someone educate me on who was going to throw money behind that. Anybody at all? Nah, Ralph isn't going to do it. Ralph's not going to do it. Not at all. Ralph is definitely not going to do it. Ralph is... Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Proper. Ralph currently, allegedly, is trying to wing himself off of his pills and supposedly he reached out to Nick Rekieta, and now they're trying to smooth things over, which you can't necessarily smooth something like that over, but they're trying to be amicable, I guess, with each other. Oh, big up to Paul J, man. I saw the comment that you left earlier about that, which you're kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing this. So big ups to you. Nah, Only Iced Coffee isn't gonna fund it. He's not gonna fund it. Oh, big ups to 706, man. I'm glad you're here. Big ups to everybody. There's a lot of people who hate Keem, but those people would still be willing to get into bed with Keem. And which is the difference? Because, Linda, that's funny. Linda, I'm still waiting for Linda to make me some of her special sauce. Not like that, chat. Take your head out of the fucking gutter. There's a lot of people who dislike Keem, but they're willing to do business with him. Because doing business with Keem can be good business, to be honest. So, and speaking of which, DSP, with this whole narrative about Keem being a bad person, all that nonsense. What DSP's trying to do, and I know most of you already know this, is he's trying very hard to appeal to like the lowest common denominator of people who will be like, oh yeah, Keem is a bad person, and run with it. And that's never going to happen because those people don't have enough of a foothold, I should say, to be able to do anything. So it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And ironically enough, the things that DSP says that the things that DSP focuses on that makes Keem a bad person, quote unquote, are some of the same things that can be used against DSP. And he's willing to completely sidestep that just because, I've watched your documentaries, people dislike you, no one should trust you or do business with you or whatever bullshit. And that's just not how that works. It really don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? And DSP has to come to terms with that, which he won't. And since he won't, he'll always be a victim of the internet, no matter what. Exactly. 706. The only person that it could be would have been Keemstar, because essentially Keem is holding on to Boogie and Wings' brand right now. Because the name and their image, because he needs it for Happy Punch. So what other person is in a position to represent Boogie and Wings but Keem? That makes no fucking sense. H3 wouldn't do it. Even though it's about getting back at Keem, and it's a good suggestion. It's a very good suggestion. Ethan is smart enough to realize that looking at DSP as a person and looking at everything Keem's been going through, he'll never get through to DSP like that. Not without having to put so many fucking clauses in that contract that essentially he would have DSP pinned down, and DSP is not going to want that. But that is actually, but in the future, that might actually be a very great suggestion. That if there was an alternative, DSP should try to appeal to H3, but it's not him. I don't think. I honestly think there just wasn't a third person. Offered Meth Bear, that's funny. Offering Jenna fucking... Well, he needs to offer her a bath. But yeah, offering her some money and some Burger King for an interview. So, there's where the situation is. Black Doom, I am working on that, my friend. I am working on that. Am I going to watch the fight tomorrow? Yeah, actually, I want to do a stream just going over the build-up for the Boogie nonsense. And then, we can definitely watch the fight. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we'll watch the recording of it. I will say this: watching the press conference, I'm not impressed. Like, at the end of the day, there's no story to be told, and Wings is not intimidating whatsoever. Boogie looks like he's overcompensating. And because of Wings' attitude, you can tell Boogie is forced to say things that he doesn't really want to say. So that kind of fucks up, whatever nonsense they had going. That fight's not gonna, to me, that fight doesn't tell me nothing. It's not been sold to me, to be honest with you. Like, you know, they keep saying it's a redemption story, but it's not. It's two people who are mirror images of each other, and they hate it. You know what I'm saying? And instead of Keem focusing on the animosity between the two, and because that's what I would do, I would focus on the animosity of both of these guys, right? Publicly. All right, so here's the play. You got two guys who have been on the internet for a very long time, who burned bright at one time and then lost almost everything, right? And they're just trying to scrounge around and hold on to what little that they have. Put both of those guys in the ring and say, neither one of you are man enough to look at yourselves and look at your mistakes, right? So let me put you in front of another loser, and now you two can look at each other and see what you guys really are. Go ahead and have the whole redemption story or paint the narrative on the outside, but in the ring, I want to see animosity. I want to see these two guys beat each other up as if they were beating up themselves. You know what I'm saying? I hate you for gaining all this weight. I hate you for letting the woman that we care about leave us. I hate you for fucking all the money that that we've all blown. I hate you for losing all of our popularity. I hate you for trying to take the easy way out. I hate you for being a coward. Whatever. That's what you should try to focus on in the ring. In the ring, that's the story that needs to be told. Two men who do not hate each other, but hate themselves. And they're going to take it out on each other. That should be the story. That should be the story that is told. And then this whole redemption nonsense, it's not nonsense, but the whole redemption thing it should be woven in, as in, are you guys going to learn anything from this? What is it that you guys really want? You know what I'm saying? Instead of this almost sad variation of like an internet blood sports type shit, where, you know, someone brought up Warski. Warski's going to walk down into the ring and eventually win by default, and Tonka didn't even show up. Keem needs to tell me a story. So in that press conference, what am I seeing? I'm seeing two extremely heavy-setted guys bumping bellies with each other, and it's laughable, and everybody around them is trying to take it seriously and trying to make it seem like, oh wow, these guys could be a threat, but there really is no threat. You can't even really separate them without their bellies touching, so it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't done well. First off, this fight shouldn't even be happening when it's happening. It should be happening towards the end of the year. Because part of the buildup is showing that either one of these guys want to do something. You know what I'm saying? Or they're fighting for something or towards something. They had, what, a couple of months? And neither one of them really looks any different. It just looks bad. And then Wings still looks paranoid. And that makes sense because most of his troll group is in Europe. So, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that I heard anything about anything because I hadn't. I've only been on the internet for like the last 8 hours. But, you know, supposedly there's going to be some Wings fans, quote unquote, that are going to be out there to watch the fight. I don't think they're going to fuck with Wings at all because there's no point. But I think they're going to, well, there is a point to scare them. But I think there are going to be people out there that are trolls that are going to be in the audience watching it. So, you know. What's up, Raiders Blade? I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing well. I hope everybody's doing well, to be honest with you. I hope you guys are all doing all right. And exactly. With tech reviews. After the fight, then you sit them down and they kind of talk it out. And that's what leads into the podcast, so to speak. But like I said, it wasn't done right. It was rushed, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, that's when Worski got knocked out. That was unfortunate. But it was a good payday for PPP, and he didn't even do anything. So, I mean, Worski essentially passed him $5,000, something like that, $5,000 for nothing. Oh, trust me. Yeah, they got security, but let's be honest. Anybody who knows, you know. If someone wants to walk past that tightrope to get you, they'll get you. You know what I'm saying? Security is only going to do so much. But no Wings troll is gonna do that. It's just no one's gonna do that. But I'm just not sold on this fight. I'm just not sold on it. Hey, what's up, Raven? But I'm just not sold on this fight. I'm just not sold on it. So it is what it is. I'm not sold on most of those guys, though, to be honest. I saw a little bit of that press conference. You got guys who are saying they're stepping out of their bedrooms or out of their houses for the first time in a while. Excuse me. So there's not a lot of people. I'm not really sold on a lot of it. Let's see here. I'm sorry. What do I think about... who do I think King got for the interview? I'm not sure. But like I said early on, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter who he gets. If he can get someone who went to school with DSP, especially in high school, that automatically debunks any bullshit that DSP has ever said about high school. If he gets someone that DSP has worked with, I hope they expose the nepotism that was going on at that helicopter company. Because that's all it was. I promise you, that's all it was. I want you to think about this for a minute. DSP got that job because his father told him to go set up the interview and told him to go down there. DSP goes to the interview, he gets the job, and then he's been doing customer service for 5 years and he's making $60,000. And matter of fact, I think he might have been making like between $50,000 and $60,000 when he started. So really, theoretically, his salary may have not have gone up that much in 5 years. But if it wasn't for Daddy, he would have never gotten that job. His dad had been at that fucking company for damn near 2 decades, almost 3. So trust me, if it wasn't for his father, that helicopter company thing doesn't even exist. It was nepotism. It was fucking nepotism. I know it was. And if he can pull someone from there, that'd be great. But I don't put too much on top of that. It'd be great if he does, though. Hey, I like Orange Cassidy, though. I like Orange Cassidy. To be honest with you. He entertains me. He got wasted, though, to be honest with you. AEW completely wasted Orange Cassidy. Absolutely. There's so much they could have done with him for what little time and shit. I'm not saying he needs to be the top guy, but Jesus Christ, they essentially used him to just put people over, which is the same thing they're doing with oh man, what's my man's name? Fucking A. Oh, hold on a second. My fault. I just remembered it. Jay Lethal. Like, Jay Lethal's being wasted, too. That's his name, Jay Lethal. Sorry. Like, that dude is being fucking wasted right now. But that's neither here nor there. But being fucking wasted. But like I said, I like Orange Cassidy. He entertains me. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting off subject a little bit, but yeah, all Elite Wrestling is, it was just a friends, like the boys club type bullshit. I really just wanted to see fantasy matches that I wasn't going to see otherwise. But, I mean, it is what it is. It happens with everything. We could have a long discussion about that, though, another time, though, because Jesus Christ. I'd like to see Leanna, too, but I don't think she's going to do it. I don't think she'll do it. If the money now keep in mind, if Keem offered her 50 grand, I think Darby Allin is also wasted too. He's not being utilized properly. There's a lot of guys that's not being used properly. Fucking A. But I could say that amongst wrestling altogether. There's a lot of people that are just being misused. If Leanna was offered 50 grand, do I think she would do it? Yeah, I honestly think she would. I hope she would. For 50K. There's no reason why you shouldn't. But that's neither here nor there. I think Panda, for all intents and purposes and for all of her faults, because we all got faults, she's a real one. And I think she really just wants to be done with it. I think she's done with it. She's done with him. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Are we saying that she sat around for like the better part of 5 years waiting for a big payday for her to do a tell-all? If she wanted to talk, she would have done it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly think, just like Ox is saying right now, if she was going to talk, she'd have talked by now. She'd have talked. She was a real one. For sure. She may still love DSP in some way, shape, or form. In a small way. She may love him enough not to want to be with him. The trash dump thing is really just an allegory, if you will, for the nonsense that he's dealing with online right now. That's really all it was. Because it sounds like complete and total lunacy. It sounds like complete and total lunacy that you're complaining about something like that. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got nothing better to do with your life that you want to complain about what happened at a fucking garbage dump? And then more importantly, I didn't watch all of it, the whole podcast, so keep that in mind. But it doesn't sound like he had anything positive to say about his day off. So, there's that too. There's just a lot of problems. There's just a lot of problems. So that's my initial thoughts. Yes, DSP will continue to lose pay pigs for sure. Until it dwindles down to where he's almost at. You know what I'm saying? Because some of the names that are coming up with these donations, I've never heard of any of them before. Now, keep in mind, I don't watch nearly as close like that. But they're not names that are familiar to me. That doesn't mean that they never existed, but it doesn't sound like the usual suspects. They sound like sock accounts. And I'm sure if anybody went back and looked, or if I took a closer look at Piece of Pieces tracker, it would pretty much prove what I'm saying. Superman and Temple Slice are gonna get the bag. Wow. No, Panda's not married. Panda's not married. And from what I've seen, it doesn't look like she's really interested in getting married, to be honest with you. It looks like she's just kind of making up for lost time. Which, you know, that's something that she should do. You know, she's still young, so... Yeah, the money is... His pay pigs are going to continue to bleed, to be honest with you. But the money's coming in slow. And the views are damn near not even there, to be honest. And DSP Gaming's dead, for all intents and purposes, in Minecraft. So I don't even see where he could really go with that. And that's why... and that's why Keem keeps prodding at him. Because Keem knows... Hey, your best bet is to take this 50 grand. But see, here's the thing with the 50,000, ladies and gentlemen. If DSP takes the 50 grand, what's he going to do with it? Right? And then with DSP getting $50,000, he can't really go back to the pay pigs and say, hey, I need money. You know, he got 50 grand. And there's no reason for him not to invest into his content or into the streams or whatever. Then he still has to show up once a week or once a month or whatever the situation is to show up over there with those guys. And then he gets a piece of the super chats and everything there. So DSP has been given a golden opportunity to make all of this money on the front end and a little bit on the back end. And he won't take it because he'd rather bleed the people that are already here. Because if he tries to gravitate to something else, he thinks people will just abandon him outright, which shows you how sick of a person he is. Because as I've said I said this a long time ago, DSP has abandonment issues. He has a shitload of them. He has a lot of problems with people up and leaving him. You saw that with John and Howard. You saw that with Melissa. You saw that with Panda. You kind of see that with Catherine, hence the reason why Catherine's locked down the way she is. Abandoning him. He's scared of being not relevant. You know what I'm saying? So he would rather shit on everybody, right? Instead of dealing with the individual losses of certain people, which is kind of pathetic. Yes, that's true. I think Panda's boyfriend is gay, or not boyfriend, but her roommate is gay. But I mean, if you didn't know that, you would think they were a good-looking couple. So that leads into, like I said, like a lot of the overarching problems with DSP as a person. And then the beta, there's an open beta for Street Fighter next weekend, I think. It's like the 19th to the 21st or something like that. And then I'm hearing he's not even going to play. And the reason why he's not going to play is because he's going to get beat up. He's going to get beat up because he's going to keep running to this excuse of, oh, the cracked beta, everybody has all these advantages, why bother? So I just like when I said when we went through that his reaction to Street Fighter 6, he's going to bury himself into that single player mode. Because essentially that's all he got. He's not going to want to go online and play competitively because he's going to get beat up. He looks like a young Woody Harrelson. Yeah. Or Harrelson. Got a lot more hair. Yeah, thank you. He still has PTSD from that fucking 13-0. Like DSP already knows he's out of his element with that game. He's just gonna get hurt. He's just gonna get hurt. Which means his ego is gonna take a massive fucking hit, and there's nothing he can do about it. So, as far as I'm concerned, Street Fighter 6 for DSP at the very least, to a point, is kind of dead on arrival. Hey, what's up, Hate Army? How you doing, man? Big ups to everybody in chat. Yeah, the thing on the first, where not the first, on the 5th, I think it was. It was either the 1st or the 5th, when they went over DSP's flapping, the anniversary nonsense. That definitely hurt DSP's pride. But that whole nonsense about Catherine's downstairs crying, I've never believed that. That's just DSP making excuses. Because Catherine knew about his fucking discretion on stream before she married him. So why would that bother her now? And it doesn't look bad on her. That was before her. So why would she cry about a situation that she couldn't help and wasn't even her responsibility? Thank you. Oh, the burst of May 1st. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So why would she bother with that? Why would she be upset by that? That's not even on her. That's not even her fault or her problem. So that's just DSP being a bitch about it. Goodbye, horses. I'm crying over you. Snort. But yeah, DSP makes himself look like a bitch with that nonsense. It's unfortunate. Yeah, but Cat is the ultimate of that puzzle, I think. Yeah, I would say Panda has a large part of the puzzle. And then you have Cat has a portion of it. She probably has like a quarter of it. And then whoever you can pull from his past, who has some real information on him, helps complete it. Oh shit, did the stream die? Oh. F in chat. Yikes. Sorry about that. God damn. My bad. Okay, good looking out on that. Sorry, I didn't even know I lost you guys for a minute. Okay, there it goes. That's where the spike is. Or where it was, anyway. Damn. That's a yikes on there. My fault, people. So there's my thoughts on that. DSP's a fool, and he let Keem play him, and it's to be expected, to be honest. And also another thing too, I saw that Keem said, "Well, let's find a third host, or a new host, I should say." And people said Tommy C. No one, he's not going to do Tommy C. Tommy C is somebody easy for Keem to not run to, but to tap into. But he's not going to get Tommy C for that because he's not fit for it. He doesn't fit into that demographic. Rich is boring, so that's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, low tier God, if nothing else, would probably be a better choice, because you can't bring Cobra or Cyrax because they're both fucking tards. So that's just a waste of brain cells there. Especially, I just saw Cobra's video with that $40 burger he bought, and he's sitting here crying about it because that's how good he thought it was. Yikes. So no. So Cobra is definitely out that bitch. The podcast, if you guys will permit me to speak on it for a minute, the podcast is tailor-made for DSP, because I want you to look at it from a standpoint for a second. You have 3 lolcows that fall into 3 different demographics from an age perspective, right? Wings is in his 30s, DSP's in his 40s, and I think Boogie's in his 50s, right? So you have 3 demographics, age demographics of lolcows, right? So now, and then you have 3 different people who started doing YouTube at different times in their life, and look at how far they got with what little they had. And then look at how quickly it all fell apart. That shit is fucking fascinating. And that's if you really want to look at it deep. And, and obviously you don't have to. This is a base level type thing. Okay, cool. He's 48. He's damn near 50. So, like, for my sake, 15 years of slander, let's just go ahead and round him up to 50. So you have 3 different... Monday Matt... Oh, my bad. I fucked that up. My bad. User error on my part. Okay, what did I say? Monday Matt? Okay, if you bring Monday Matt into that situation, give me Monday Matt, who was in those Discord conversations talking shit about people and just shitting it up and not caring about anything, right? Give me that Monday Matt, the one who doesn't mind saying the N-word, the one that doesn't really like black people and he blames them for the failure of his Hollywood career. Give me that Monday Matt. Don't give me the fence sitter, the one who thinks that, who wants to try to appeal to everybody so he doesn't start any conflict. Don't give me that. He's boring and he won't last. Ralph is not in a position to do much of anything right now. If this was 2017 Ralph, that's different. But Ralph right now, he's not suited for that type of situation. He's just not. And speaking of which, now that we brought that up, sorry about the muted part, guys. I kind of did get kind of fucked up there. When you think about DSP saying, oh, didn't one of Keem's previous hosts, or someone who worked with him, didn't he have a problem with him? He's talking about Savo Pancakes. And don't bring up Savo Pancake, DSP, if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because Savo was a different animal in himself. Now, I don't know what Savo's doing these days, but Savo has 2 big notches on his fucking belt. But he's a headache. He's a problem. Savo essentially was the one who put the whole Flamenco leave those kids alone shit on him. He's the one who put that pedophile kind of nonsense on Flamenco. And he also helped bring down what's that guy's name? The guy with the cat ears. Yeah, Dennis. What's his screen name though? Fuck. What is your name? Def Noodles. Thank you. Def Noodles. He helped bring Def Noodles down. With that situation at Def Noodles' little comedy club that went array and all that bullshit. So, yeah, no, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And Savo has already proven that if you irritate him in the slightest, whatever information he has on you, he'll just use it. Because one of Keem's, I'm not sure if he was a co-host or he's part of his production team or his sound guy, I can't remember. He doxed him on one of their streams. He just flat out threw that dude's name out there, and Keem sat there and just looked stunned and shit, like a bitch. Like, how are you gonna let your man get doxed like that and not do nothing? And Savo kind of kept doing it because Savo doesn't feel threatened by Keem. I mean, Jesus Christ, Savo allegedly threatened to come to Keem's house, or come to Keem's house, and not to say he was gonna do anything, we don't know. But, you know, Keem was talking about getting security, so clearly he was somewhat serious. So no. Like, DSP don't know shit about shit with that Savo thing, and he shouldn't have brought that up. Savo's a different type of animal. Savo's a different type of animal. He's someone that's not... You don't... Savo's a different type of animal. Savo fucked himself. There was a lot of money in that Keemstar show that they had going on. They could have made a lot of money with each other. But, you can't, you just can't make that work. Savo never had a problem with, I don't know so much about Mutahar, but with Augie and with those guys, he never had no issue with them. The only person that he kind of had I don't even know if he had an issue with him, but he was an easy punching bag, was Flamenco. You know what I'm saying? So... Oh, and now that I think about it, Savo's really good. It was in really good position with what's that guy's name? Is it Eggard? Or Homeboy Edwin, or whatever his name was. I mean, because they supposedly shared a chick, so they must have been on good terms with each other. Then again, her interview was just uncomfortable though. Like, you really like Edwin, so you were allegedly willing to sleep with Savo to make that happen? Okay, I don't know how I feel about that, but all right. I don't know about that. I understand sharing is caring, but I don't know how I feel about that one. Let's see here. Yeah, Hate Army, I understand that. And that does make sense, where Keem is trying to he's essentially trying to herd lol cows together and put them in these positions to where they can talk about world events or whatever the case may be. But a lol cow is a lol cow at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And more importantly than that, that loses some of that charm when people realize that, oh, they're being paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different. Like, let me give you an example. What's the name of that podcast everybody likes? That being said, right? Okay, great podcast. We've all watched that one time or another, right? Okay. When I look at That Being Said, right? Potentially, I'm seeing what PKA was before. They're going to eventually become. It's going to be like another PKA. To be honest, it's just going to be focused on DSP and not wings, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't mean to categorize them or whatever. Just try to see where I'm coming from for a minute. You have a podcast that's built around this one idiot, right? But you guys laugh at other stuff too, but it's essentially on this one idiot. And it could be extremely successful. Just like how, what's Real Talk, that Real Talk situation over there in the Wings category could have been extremely popular and extremely successful if dudes could gotten their shit together. You know what I'm saying? Or look at what's going on in the Cobraverse with, what is that guy's show called? Is it called Cobra Bones? Something like that. And the guy and those two guys who host that, and they talk about funny events in Cobra's history, like that. Like, all of those things are monumentally successful, yeah? Or they will potentially be getting monumentally successful within their own communities. So imagine Keem coming in as an umbrella company and saying, hey, I'm willing to give you guys sponsorship. I'm willing to get you guys endorsements. All you do is sign in. All I need you guys to do is sign under me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys just sign in under my umbrella. It's still your show, right? I'm just going to help you with sponsorships. I'll help you with endorsements or whatever, and you cut me in on a percentage. You know what kind of scope something like that could happen? And that's just an example. I'm not saying that's what the situation is, but it's something like that. If Keem could get himself in a position where he could do that, just imagine him having a popular podcast in every locale community. Think about that. Think about what kind of fucking influence that he could have and what could be done with something like that. Just imagine having a once a year podcast, if you will. You got a couple guys from That Being Said. You got a couple guys from Real Talk. You got a couple guys from the Chris community. A couple guys here, a couple guys here. And in a large scale panel once a year. And they talk about their individual locales. And they talk about some of the bullshit that they've dealt with over the span of a year. Something like that's fascinating. And something like that really opens the community up to other communities and so on and so forth. Like, that's a really fantastic idea if something like that could be implemented. The problem is when you have communities that are willing to cross over like that, you're going to have problems. And I don't know how you necessarily get around that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's really more of a person-to-person type thing. But it's a cool concept. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Keem was trying to do. He was trying to manufacture his own little situation where he could have 3 different communities come to one central hub for the laughs and for the giggles, right? And make a lot of money off of it. Snake Bones. Thank you. That's what it's called. Just imagine that. No, that's what I'm saying. But in a lot of those podcasts or whatever, they're tuned into just one locale. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not talking about them branching off and talking about other locales per se. What I'm saying is, imagine taking some of the hosts from That Being Said and talking to a few guys who are associated with Cobra. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of like, and just having just an organic conversation about locales. Right? You got 2 different podcasts from 2 separate communities speaking to each other about their set locale of choice. You know what I'm saying? It's a level of camaraderie that you don't necessarily find amongst detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, so to speak, over different communities. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying people should cross over or whatnot. It's great in theory, but not a lot of people can do it. And there's reasons for that. But something like that, like having a small summit like that would be fucking fantastic, I think. But I don't know how something like that would be pulled off. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what my bad. You know me, man. I'm long-winded about this shit, and I need to be a bit more precise about what I'm trying to say. But something along those lines. You know what I mean? But the point that I'm trying to make is, if Keem was to go that route, he can bring a lot to the table. You know what I'm saying? A lot of sponsorships, a lot of endorsements, so on and so forth, and whatnot. But with that being said, when you bring in money, especially guaranteed money, people change, and not necessarily in the way that you guys may think that I'm getting ready to say. I'm saying that initially, before the money comes in, it's all fun and jokes, and it's for the giggles and this, that, and the third. Yeah. Then when you start bringing a financial aspect into it, then there's an idea that, okay, the show needs to be this way, and it needs to be kind of consistent. And consistency kind of kills the fun in a show sometimes when you think about it that way. So, like, bringing in sponsorships and endorsements are great, but also I feel like it kills a lot of the fun of it too, which you can see that in PKA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when things aren't as steady as they should be, then they just go to beating up on Wings. When truth be told, Wings has been an intricate part of PKA since its beginning. So let's not act like we're above talking about Wings. Just, you know what I'm saying? Because you guys always have a segment on him anyway. So, you know, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, like you look at that being said, right? There's a lot of potential there. And like I said, you get some sponsorships there, you get some endorsements, and so much more can happen with that show that will eclipse anything that DSP himself could do. But then that becomes another problem in itself, because now people are going to be like, well, wait a second. These guys came up with a podcast clowning you. Now they have sponsorships and they have endorsements. They don't rely on ad revenue so much. They don't rely on contributions. And look at what they've been able to do. Why can't you do that, DSP? And now that's going to fuck them. Well, it's fucking them now, but it's going to fuck them over even worse. Which is hilarious. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, at least with the with Real Talk, I was really hoping those guys were going to succeed. I really wanted to see those guys win just so they could rub that shit in Wings' face. Because Wings is a bitch. So as soon as Wings sees something of success, he wants to stab at it. He needs to. He needs to stab at it. And, I mean, it is what it is. No, that's still the video about the interview is still in the works. Yeah, that's all DSP is a stepping stone. That's all. That's all he'll ever be. That's all he'll ever be. And as I said about the that being said, or any podcast really, that's just me. That's just me throwing that out there. Don't take any of that to. Don't take anything of that. That's just me brainstorming. I don't know. Like I said, as it pertains to the situation with Keem in particular and whatever it is that he's working on, I mean, unless that shit matches what Side Scroller did, not to say that it's the bare fucking minimum, but you know what I mean. Unless it matches that or eclipses, it overperforms that, I don't have too much. I don't have too much and anything to say about that. You can never get a lolcow to embrace being a lolcow. That's the real situation. Like, that's the reason why DSP persists the way he does. He believes DSP, down to his very foundation, believes he's a regular person. He believes that he's normal. He believes everybody who makes fun of him or mocks him, they are the sick people. They are the problem. They are the ones who need to be, you know, they're the ones with the issues. He's just a normal guy. The problem is DSP is anything but normal. The Side Scroller podcast shows that, but really on his own quote-unquote podcast, all this rocking back and forth, all of the fucking lean-ins and whatnot, the self-reliance on his chat, you know, to keep him morally standing up, if you will, or morally strong, and whatever. He's clearly not a normal person. Clearly, like, he clearly has issues, a lot, and one of his issues is he's not as smart and or as intelligent as he thinks he is. He's far from it. DSP, for all intents and purposes, is bare minimum at best. I would never say that there's anything intellectually special about him whatsoever. He's someone that if you put a book in front of him, he can read whatever it says and he can regurgitate it to paper. But that doesn't mean he understands it. He understands that he needs to know it, but that doesn't mean he understands what he just took in. That's essentially what makes DSP up, to be honest. Because if you just look at his definition of certain things, it's all wrong, and that's all basic common sense shit. You know what I'm saying? On top of that, he lacks the real world social experience that's needed. DSP he talk real good. He talk himself into circles. He can talk other people into these word salads, into these basically empty calorie fucking conversations. He can do that all day, but he's not really telling you anything. But when you put him into a situation where he needs to talk, where you put him on one subject and you ask him to explain himself, he can't. What is that called? I guess one word for it is visceral, right? It means that he has an unexplained hatred for something, but he can't exactly explain to you why he hates it, right? Or why he disagrees with it, or why he has a problem with it, right? It just comes off as being pure ignorance. He can spout the bullshit all he wants, but he can't explain it. Like, for example, his hatred for Nintendo. His hatred for Nintendo, ladies and gentlemen, comes from the fact that one time, a long time ago, they said that they didn't want anybody monetizing their stuff on YouTube unless you were under their umbrella. The thing is DSP was under Machinima, so he sidestepped that anyway. So nothing happened to him. He just went ahead and put all that vitriol out there because Angry Joe did. It gave DSP something else to rant at these big companies about, right? DSP didn't give a fuck about the other content creators that were affected. He didn't give a fuck about the content itself because he was still going to bleed it and make money off of it anyway. It gave him something to bitch about. It was the complaint of the day. It was the angry snort of the minute, if you will. That's all it was. What's really grinding my bacon fat today? That's all it was. And he's held on to it because he's got nothing else. Same thing with Keem. Same thing with Rich. He hates both of those guys and he doesn't really know why. He hates Rich, honestly. He hates Rich because what Rich was doing wasn't working, and Rich went to something else and he got a better result. I'm not going to say that Rich was successful or is successful, but he's more than what he was when he was just trying to review tech. He hates Keem's story because Keem is successful. Keem has money, he has resources, and he has the respect of people. Even the people who hate him, he has their respect. And DSP is pissed off about it because he's like, how is someone who's as hated or disregarded... Wait a second, Keem's not disregarded, let me take that back. How is someone who's hated or has as much animosity against them as Keem does, how is it that people are willing to do business with him or even be showing up around him? Because he does do good business. He can make people money. He can get people out of trouble. Go back to 2017, 2018, even a little bit of 2019, when internet blood sports was still a thing. He was pulling those guys out of problems with YouTube and Twitch and Twitter a lot. He had resources and he had a reach that they didn't, and he helped them with it. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes DSP, that's where DSP's vitriol comes from. You know what I'm saying? That's what it really comes from. It's just hatred for the sake of being just hating, right? And there's not too many, I can't think of a single detractor who's like that. Every detractor, for the most part, at least that I've spoken to or I've watched to an extent, have a reason for disliking them, but I don't even think they really hate him. Even the guys who say they hate DSP, they don't hate him. They hate how he acts. They hate how he squandered his opportunities, right? When you have other people out here who are far more talented and work harder than he does. You know what I'm saying? I've spouted bullshit at DSP. If you followed me for any period of time, I have thrown shots down range. You know what I'm saying? And I meant everything that I said for the most part. Some of the stuff was taken a little bit out of context, but that's my fault. But I've thrown shots at him and I meant everything that I said. But I don't hate him. He doesn't keep me up at night. When I'm with Milf and Cookies, I'm with Milf and Cookies. I'm doing my job. I'm putting in my work. I'm not thinking about him. When I'm not on this internet shit, I'm very rarely thinking about any of the nonsense that's going on over here until I'm ready to punch back in. DSP is not part of my life. He's something that I do in my life when I feel like I'm ready to do it. He's nothing more than that. But if you're a detractor, troll, hater, or critic, DSP doesn't handle you in that same way. He doesn't look at you in that same way. Yeah, I don't have any type of monetization or anything. What's up, Jesse? I don't have any type of monetization or anything like that, man. There's better detractors out there you can give your money to, man. I'll be honest with you, I appreciate it, but there's better people you can give your money to. Like I said, I'm not there yet. But DSP is the one who has people living rent-free in his head. He's the one who, this internet shit is his life. It's all he has. He has nothing else. Not a goddamn thing. And that's proof positive. And Keem knows that. And that's why Keem keeps attacking him the way he does. Because DSP has nothing else. And so if Keem is really trying to pry into DSP's real life, and he decides to start picking that stuff apart, I'm sorry, what is DSP really going to do? He can't make it stop. You know what I'm saying? And he can't keep confronting it because he's only going to hurt himself. When he made those 2 videos back to back about how he didn't want anything to do with the podcast, or he heard this and he heard that, he fell for the bait, hook, line, and sinker. It was almost embarrassing to have watched DSP respond to that. And here's one thing that I really want to point out. In that one video where he said, "Oh, I heard that, Boogie and Wings may be moving along and going with a third host or whatever, and I reached out to them and no one's reached out to me back, but I don't really care." Stop. You just sat there and made an effort to find out what these guys are doing and what the plan is, and then you immediately follow that up by saying, "I don't care"? How does that make sense? Why'd you put all that effort in if you don't give a shit? That's literally retardation. That's dumb. That is a stupid thing to say. And that's the real problem with DSP. Like, he's so focused on... Let me stop. let me stop for a minute. DSP is so focused on taking Keem's money and somehow looking like he's just as bad as Keem, or if not worse, that he's not thinking this money and this added viewership and this added exposure could put him in a stratosphere where he could prove that he's better than what people say about him. That's the problem. DSP thinks if he takes this money and he takes his business opportunity, the detractors, trolls, haters, and critics will run off to his viewership and say, "Hey, he's got all this money now. He's got a job now." Because if you think about it, that's what Keem is offering him. He's offering him a job. He has a job now. You don't have to throw your money at him like that no more. And DSP is greedy all around. So he's scared of that. That's his problem. Let me give you a better analogy, or an analogy that flows with it. Look at DSP Reacts. When you look at that, DSP said initially from Jump Street, if you do the membership thing, and if you guys contribute to the streams, I don't have to worry about ad revenue. Within weeks, he's bitching and complaining about how he can't put ads on the video. It was always going to be about ad revenue. That's all DSP knows. He's lived and died by ad revenue. This idiot turned down sponsorships and opportunities for ad revenue. He'll never give that up. Even if it's just a couple of pennies, it's his pennies. That's just what he is. And you're right, hate is a strong word. But see, the thing is though too, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody when I say this. Real hate, ladies and gentlemen, is one of us has to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you really think about it, real hate is one of us has to go. So let me pick somebody out of the chat real fast. Anybody, really. Black Doom. You know what I'm saying? As you know, I don't have no problems with nobody. But Black Doom, if let's say I came out and said on another podcast or whatever, you know what? I don't fuck with Black Doom. You know what I'm saying? I don't like what they say or whatever. I hate Black Doom, whatever. To say that you hate another person, at least the way I came up, is that other person has to go. This is someone who has offended you or your family or something along the lines where you can't live with the idea that they're still around. That's what real hate is. You sitting there saying, DSP sitting there saying, for example, "Oh, I hate this manufacturer," or "I hate this person," or "I hate this person trolling me." That's not hate. That's not real hate. Real hate is someone needs to go. Like, literally, someone needs to go. And DSP ain't going nowhere with that. And more importantly, no detractor is going to go there with that. If someone really wanted to, no pun intended, if someone really wanted to bring the fight to DSP's doorstep, it would have been done. It would have been done. Look at Boogie. Or look at, well, you actually look at Boogie with Frank Hassel. If Frank Hassel really had a weapon, that whole situation could have gone different. Look at that situation with Wings, back when all the escorts were being sent to his house, or hookers, when they were being sent to his house, when food was being sent to his house, when people were running up to his door and shit and banging on that bitch and then running off. If someone really wanted to hurt Wings, they could have, and they didn't. There's a difference between saying that you hate someone and you disliking somebody, or you hating what they do. You know what I'm saying? There's a big, big difference. And so that's why I'm trying to say that I don't think anybody really hates DSP. If that was the case, someone would have done something. You don't really hate him. You may hate what he does, but you don't hate him. You know what I'm saying? Because your life doesn't encompass him. DSP is not someone who has an effect on anybody's life to that degree, to where that's a situation. Nah, Black Doom's not going to Band World. It was just an example. Big ups to Black Doom. Oh, you knuckle up whenever you're ready, son. You let me know. Right in your chest. But it's like that. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. It's the desire to destroy somebody else. And you can't even, and that's another thing too. If any of DSP's detractors really wanted to get him up and out of pocket, it would have happened. It would have been a group effort, but it would have happened by now if that was really the case. It's easier and it's more entertaining to tear DSP down piece by piece than taking him down as a whole. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Wings trolls did with Wings. They literally broke that man psychologically, and they did it over time. You know what I'm saying? They didn't take him out all at once, and that's what Keem's doing. Keem is going to sit there and break DSP down piece by piece. And DSP is just going to sit there, and he thinks he can ignore it. He thinks that he's above it and he doesn't have to respond to nothing. But in truth, he's already given up. He's already chosen death in Minecraft. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to hate. It's hard for you to hate someone who hasn't affected you or someone in your family. Someone that's affected something to you that means something, right? If it's on some online bullshit, it's on some online bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But there's no real, you know what I'm saying? There's no real need for hatred there. DSP throws that shit around more than detractors do. DSP throws that around because he's never had to deal with the repercussions of it. Example. Have any of you, I'm sure most of you, have been in a fist fight before. I'm sure most of you, or at least some of you, have been jumped before. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what do you know how you fucking feel in a situation like that? I've won fights that I've been pissed off about afterwards. And I won. So just imagine how I felt about the fights that I lost. And just imagine what lengths I went to feel, or what lengths that I was willing to go to inflict that onto the person that I lost to. And you can use your imagination for that one, because I've done quite a bit. I've gone medieval on some bullshit, especially when I got jumped. But you know what I'm saying? That's a different type of thing. But DSP can't explain that to you because he's never gone through that. So it's easy to sit here and say, "Oh, I hate people. I hate this. I hate that." You don't understand he doesn't understand what hatred is. He really don't. And that's a social thing. That's something as a child, or in your youth, if you will, you understand what that is and what that means. You know what I'm saying? DSP don't understand that. He don't get that. Yeah, exactly, Pig Roach. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of these childish things that he has and he never really let go of. You know what I'm saying? And it's a really pathetic aspect of his personality, to be honest with you. And that's why, honestly, I'm only going to speak for myself on this one. It's very hard for me to look at DSP as a person sometimes, because he doesn't have the qualifications, or he just doesn't have the qualities that makes him worthy of it. You know what I'm saying? And this is from someone who, I tell you guys, I'm not a good person. So if I would say that about myself, when I say that DSP doesn't have the qualifications of a person who I think deserves to have redemption, or deserves a fifth or a sixth or a seventh chance, because trust me, he's gotten all of that. That right there carries weight, because I have to be honest with myself before I can be honest with anybody else. You know what I mean? And like I said, DSP has so many shortcomings, it's ridiculous. And he'll never win. He'll never win in the grand scheme of things. That's why he so heavily relies on hating his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. Because as long as he has them around, he can always be a victim, right? He can always blame his shortcomings on someone else. Because if DSP has to take responsibility for his own shit, he's just going to revert back to this childlike state where, oh, well, I didn't understand. Oh, I don't know. That wasn't explained to me. What grown man talks like that? You know what I mean? Like, what grown adult talks like that? That's weird. That's fucking weird. He'll sit there and tell you he's run a successful business for over a decade, but then he gets on side scrollers and says, oh, well, I don't know how my taxes are done. Huh? Or he doesn't know what his monthly spending was. What? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, none of that makes any sense. And like I said, that podcast, it just showed how much of an NPC he was. It just showed how much of a drone he was. It was embarrassing, to say the least. Actually, Sniper No Snipe, you actually make a fantastic point. Shouldn't we help people who can't help themselves? Yeah, and people have. And people have. I mean, in truth, and you make a fantastic point with the rest of your thing, you have people who have less than DSP does who are constantly trying to help him. Financially, morally, with their time, just in general. And look at how quickly he squandered it. Which is why I'm of the theory that some of these people who have who are either autistic or whatever the case may be, there's something about DSP that resonates in them. There's something about DSP that resonates with them. And I think that's the reason why his viewer base and his fan base, what's left of them, looks the way it does. You know what I'm saying? I honestly think that's what it is. And I think DSP, over the years, because many detractors have joked at his expense about it, he has become self-conscious of it now. It bothers him what his actual core fan base looks like. You know, because when there was a bunch of people back in the day, DSP could shit on whoever he wanted. He could, ban 30 people off the rip and didn't care. Well, once you start reducing those people down to the lowest common denominator, now he sees what he really has, and he don't like it. And that's fascinating to me. I'm absolutely fascinated by that. And because there are some real characters over there, but there are also clearly people over there that have problems, who have issues, who I think really need help. And I mean need help in a bunch of different ways, honestly. But they should be watching content from someone who's not going to abuse them, or someone who doesn't believe he's above them. When you step into a community, you shouldn't have to prove anything to anybody. You should be able to come in, say hello, or whatever the case may be, and you should just be able to be. DSP doesn't have that. If you're going to step into his community, if you're going to step into the king's court, so to speak, in air quotes, you have to immediately prove yourself. You have to prove your loyalty. So you have to go through this 24-hour bullshit before you can even talk. Then you got to help that. Now that you've been invited into the chat, now you got to contribute. Now you have to give gifted subs. Well, you have to give yourself a membership first. Then you have to gift memberships. And then you have to show up to the streams. And you have to do this constantly until you're actually considered part of a community. That's insane. That's absolutely ridiculous. And that whole 24-hour nonsense to have people talk in your chat is already insane. Because when he has these large influxes in viewership, the majority of them can't even talk because they're there for the first time. So how is DSP really going to tell you that new people come to my streams all the time and say how great the stream is when the first time they show up, they can't even speak in the chat? Think about that. Exactly, pay tribute. How does that make sense? And that's a really sick way of looking at things. So it's an ugly situation either which way. And the Keemstar thing is only going to only expand upon that, because let's say he gets someone that he went to school with. That's going to be a nice little treasure trove depending on how close they were to him. But someone who worked with DSP, that's where the real money is. That's where the real money is, because I'm waiting to hear he showed up late, he showed up drunk, if he ever got a problem with someone or whatever, he ran to daddy. That's the stuff that I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to a couple other things. Oh, he used to always say, why can't he, why isn't he running this place? Oh, he can do the job better than this guy. Why they get promoted? I'm waiting to hear that shit too. I'm waiting to hear all of that. Because before now, DSP was able to control the narrative, and as I've always said before, chat, give him enough rope and he'll hang himself. So he's contradicted some of that. Now, if you bring in a third person, a third party, who can tell you how it really was to work with him for even a year, that right there will open the floodgates. So if DSP is really nervous about anything, he'll be nervous about that. Would Howard or Rambo even want to get involved with the Vortex? I don't think so. And the thing is, ironically enough, if I had to choose between the two, who I think I would have the best chance of getting him to jump back in is Howard. Because Howard has real animosity and whatnot. Like, Howard really bit his tongue in his time with DSP. And it shows. He's the one that I'd really want, who I think I'd have the best chance of getting in and talking to. But I think Howard's let that go. You know what I'm saying? I think Howard's let that go. And John has gone on to really be a success in his own right. Both men have, but John especially, as it pertains to his filmmaking and his writing or whatnot. So he's far beyond that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, John took something that he was passionate about, which was something that he did with DSP, and he was actually able to make it work. And you can do nothing but be happy for him for that. So I don't see him wanting to come back into any of this shit. I think they know what kind of loser DSP is, and there's no point of it. And what do they get? Gugats. But I think, truth be told, I think their experience with DSP has made both of them better people, to be honest with you. Because DSP is a real parasite. He's a real fucking parasite. That shit's insane. And the fact that they gave him so many chances, that's the thing that always sticks with me. They constantly gave him chances. They constantly gave him the benefit of the doubt. In truth, I think they wanted to see him be better, or they thought underneath his bullshit he was a better person, and he's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not. I'm gonna close this. We're gonna close this out, but let me read through the chat real fast. But I want you guys to walk away with this for just a second. When you think of, you know how I usually say DSP, Darkside Phil Burnell, DSP Gaming, Darkside Karen, Darkside Pill, whatever. I want you guys to kind of see my thought process for a minute. When I think of Phil Burnell, I think of the failed businessman, right? But in his own mind, he's a success. But I look at Phil Burnell as the businessman, the one who, thinks he knows better and knows how to do better. And if he just had the opportunity, he would. Then I look at Darkside Phil as the ultimate underdog. No one believed in him in the FGC, supposedly. No one believed in him on YouTube or on Twitch or whatever. And he was someone who had nothing, and he made himself something. And then I look at DSP as he's essentially the wrestler. He's supposed to be the overblown persona who exhibits and exudes all of this confidence and all of this vision, and he's supposed to be the tough guy. This is how I rationalize these three personas in my head. And truth be told, I honestly think that's how he looks at himself. And he's a failure on all accounts. He's an absolute failure on all 3 accounts. And that's amazing if you really think about it. If you really, really think about it. Phil Burnell as a person is a joke. He's weak. He is unlikable. He's unwashed. He is what he is. Darkside Phil was an asshole. He was in a community full of other assholes and took the shit too seriously. And then when it came down to him trying to prove his point about something, he did it in a subpar game that no one respected in the first place. And then here's the crossover between Darkside Phil and DSP. When he got pushback about that, he jumped into the DSP persona. Oh, you want to fight? Oh, you want to meet up and do something about it? And then what? He's in the parking lot on his hands and knees in front of Mike Watson and Jaha crying about him being an alcoholic? So there ain't nothing tough about him. And there is no underdog situation to him. There was nobody betting against him because nobody cared. That's the truth. If you're a real underdog, everybody has you written off. But how do you write off somebody that nobody cares about? Think about that. I want you to think about it, because he just told a story recently about how he was talking about his 4th place finish, right? I didn't watch all of it, but I got enough to catch the drift. And he basically said they all hated on him. It doesn't matter how insignificant the mod, or not the ROM was, or that version of the game was. He still won. But you didn't win. You took 4th. You took 4th. And then you said everybody was against you. No one believed in you. Well, they were right to do so. You took 4th. You took 4th. So what are you talking about? And then the thing that really kind of set me off on that was he said, someone asked him, well, when did you meet John Rambo? Oh, I met him years later. Oh, wait. I met him in 2006. So you met him the next year later. You met him the next year then. And I don't even think that's true. I think what happened, he met John literally right after EVO 2005. Because I can't remember who it was, but somebody in Connecticut had put the word out that, hey, Phil went to fucking EVO and he took 4th or whatever, and that's how he ended up meeting John. So I think he met John that same year. If not, he may have met him the next year. But either way, DSP lied and said, oh, I didn't meet John till years later. Then he says, oh, well, I met him the next year. Yet again, why would you lie about something like that? But then there's another segment, though, somewhere where DSP essentially refers to John as if he was some type of groupie. You know what I'm saying? Which is distasteful, clearly. So you have your problems there. And which is ironic because, in my own opinion, DSP loves John. But yet you went ahead and you spoke of him like he was some groupie running up on you after you took 4th? What groupie runs up on someone for taking 4th? Even if you're in a band, let's say you're just the drummer or you're the backup bass player or something, no one considers that groupies. You know, or you don't consider that girl a groupie. You know what I'm saying? I mean, keep in mind though too, if you're in a band and if you're good, you know, you can pull whatever you want. But you know what I mean? So there's that. It's a, like, his whole persona is a joke. His whole life is just really, really sad. Like, I used to laugh at it. I still laugh at it. But as time has gone on, and as I've taken my own retrospective look, if you will, I don't pity him. I don't pity him, but I just think he's really pitiful. If I guess is really what I want to say. I don't pity him. I can't pity him because I've seen too many good people do that. You know what I'm saying? I've seen way too many good people give DSP the benefit of the doubt or be willing to not necessarily fight for him, but to at least try to speak on his behalf on a certain situation or whatever the case may be. And they got burned for it. and they didn't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And I can understand people standing up for you, because a lot of people stood up for me. To be honest, a lot of people, more so than even I fully know. So I understand that, and I appreciate that. But I didn't progressively get worse, or I didn't turn my back on those people, right? I didn't turn around and say such and such is just a hang on or whatever. I didn't do that. So So when you have someone who does exhibit that type of behavior, I don't get it. I don't get why people would still try to defend you when they know what you're capable of. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, And maybe that's me just being pragmatic. You know what I'm saying? That DSP is someone who's burned people multiple times, and these are people that he said he liked. So what would he do to someone that he doesn't like? Or what would he do to someone that he doesn't care about? You know what I mean? So that's my initial thoughts on that. All right, chat. Let's see what the chat has to say real quick. What's up, Kings? And then I will leave you off. DSP thinks he's Hulk Hogan, and he thinks Keemstar is Andre the Giant. Oh, that's funny. Actually, you know what? I think DSP. I like the Andre the Giant thing. I actually really do like that. But if I had to say, I think DSP honestly thinks he's Randy Savage, and he looks at Keemstar as Hulk Hogan, because as you know, between the two, Hogan got the much bigger push. He got the much bigger money. There was allegedly a rumor that Hogan and Queen Elizabeth or Miss Elizabeth had actually smashed at one time or another. I don't think that's true, but you never know. And Randy Savage just had a pretty big chip on his shoulder, because he was putting in a lot of work, and there was a lot of people who appreciated what he did and felt that he should have been bigger, but it was always overshadowed by Hogan. I mean, shit. When Savage got the heavyweight belt the first time, immediately Hogan essentially kind of latches himself onto him, and next thing you know, they end up becoming a tag team. Like, it's whatever. It's whatever. It's so dirty. It's just so dirty when you think about it. You know what I'm saying? So when I think about, so like I said, I like your Andre the Giant, analogy. I like it a lot. If I had to give you my spin, I think DSP looks at himself as Randy Savage and Keemstar as Hogan. Because Hogan's always getting shitted on for not laying down for people, fucking over people politically, which he did, and doing just a lot of underhanded bullshit. Savage played it straight, but he had all the anger problems and issues. He tended to... he could be disagreeable at times, but he was willing to always put in the work. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he was going to go out in that ring and he was going to make shit happen. It's like that. If you want to look at it from a wrestling standpoint, I should say. So. Yeah, a lot of those old stories are fucking fantastic. I'm trying to track down, real quick, I'm trying to track down the situation. So The Rock, everybody knows who, The Rock is. He had, only in the last couple years, or few years, he found out that he has a bunch of half brothers and sisters out here, right? And all over, in Canada, and all over the United States, and God knows wherever else. My thing is The Rock's father was in a relationship with like a 14-year-old girl. And the writer who was writing on that shit, he got his shit pulled. And supposedly, allegedly, The Rock's people wanted his manuscript and his documentation that was talking about the research he was doing to find out who this woman was, which he did find her. And I want to find out more about that, because I don't care what the time period was, there's something fucking wrong with that. And but then again, in wrestling, you hear a lot of shit like that. There's a lot of weird ass shit that people were doing at this time. It's ew. It's a nasty type of situation. But I'm trying to track some shit down on that because I want to find out more about that. But the thing is, it's not isolated to just The Rock's father, right? There's a lot of stories about a bunch of these underage ring rats and all this other crazy shit that was going on, and it's just a problem. It's just a real fucking problem. And Vince knew about a lot of that shit and didn't say nothing. Because as long as you were performing, it is what it was. But that's on some other shit. You know, we talk about that later. If Jim hasn't talked about it yet, I'm hoping it's going to be on what's that show that Brian Last has? It's like 605, I think. I think I gotta look, but if they even ever spoke about it, it's gonna be on that. But I'm gonna have to look. But that shit is fucking wild, because initially when it was told to me that, I thought it was bullshit, and then come to find out there might actually be something to it. Exactly, yeah. Jake Roberts' father did a bunch of fucked up shit. So it's just a misconception. So I wish DSP would, so, you know, for all the love that DSP has for wrestling, excuse me. So for all of DSP's love for wrestling, if he really looked, especially at some of the old timers, maybe that would change his perspective, but maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. But I don't know. The Rock's dad did a bunch of dirty shit. I mean, he had women all over the place. Had multiple kids with a lot of those women too. There's at least like 5 or 6 half brothers out there that The Rock has that he didn't really know about. He knows about them now, but he didn't know about them initially. But none of them want any money, and none of them even really want to talk to him. They're just like, they really were just trying to find out who their father was. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to know who he was. They don't care about The Rock or his money, as far as I've read. So, and there's one woman, one of his half sisters is out there, and she's trying to bring all of them together, just to get their story. You know, because she wants to know what's going on too, and she wants to reconnect with them. She doesn't care about the money. So, yeah, he was very much a rolling fucking stone. He was very much a rolling fucking stone. All right, guys. Like I said, I'm gonna get out of here. I will go over we'll do a podcast or whatever, or a stream talking about the whole Boogie fight. We'll go over the trailer, and we'll go over this press conference, and I'll give you a little bit more of what I'm thinking about before that fight. And then let me compile all of the videos, the drama videos that DSP did, and all that bullshit over the last couple of days as it pertains to the nonsense with Keemstar, and we'll do a stream on that, and we'll pretty much be caught up. I'm not, Tony Atlas knows a lot, but ironically enough, if you ever seen any of his interviews, he only talks about what they ask him. He never really tries to branch off and speak on anything else. So he only talks about directly what you ask him. So, because and in some ways, to be honest with you, I got a bit of a problem with Tony, because I don't know if we have that full story about that Bruiser Brody thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he said he was in the locker room with Dutch Mantell, and they were sitting there booting up or whatever, and they heard the conflict or whatever, but they didn't run in there right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you heard some tussling or whatever, but no one ran in there right away. And then when they finally went in there, you know, Bruiser's is all gutted up, and the other dude has already ran. And I don't know. There's just, I don't know. There's more to that story. There's way more to that story than I think what we've seen. Yeah, I saw the iDubbbz the iDub situation. I don't know what to say about that, man. I don't. I don't know. He's clearly iDubbbz is going through it. So so it is what it is. I don't know what iDubbbz what's he doing or what is he thinking. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a thing, I guess. There's a lot of people from the internet who a few years ago, you would have never thought what's happening to them is happening. You know, life comes at you fast, and yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. All right, people. Like I said, let me let you guys go. Thank you guys very much for kind of like tuning in or whatnot. And like I said, I'll catch you guys for the next one. Like I said, hopefully in another day or so, if anything. Dub seems untouchable. I'll see you guys later, guys.